All right, in this video, we're going to talk about Helix, but more specifically, we're going to talk about adjustable parts. I'm going to show you not only how you can make a Helix and how you can make things like a spring, but we're going to look at how you can make that spring adjustable where it'll stretch and form with whatever your assembly is. To start off, I'm going to use this PowerPoint again here to help me kind of go through the basics here. You've seen a lot of this, I'm sure, in just playing with Solid Edge, but we're going to go through it here real quickly. So when you go to make a Helix, you'll come up with these Helix options, and there are three different ways that you can um, make your Helix. So the first one here is by the length of the axis that you've selected and the pitch. So the pitch is uh, the space in between each turn, each revolution. Okay, so if you have a larger pitch, you'll have a much more stretched out looking spring. You have a smaller pitch, you'll have a much tighter looking spring. The other one that you can use here is axis length and the number of turns. So again, the length of the spring is measured by the length of your line here that you're revolving around, but your tightness is now determined by how many turns you have. All right, and then the final one is a combination of the pitch and the number of turns, and then the length of the spring is calculated. Okay, so that's the basic things here for, and you of course make it right-handed or left-handed. Um, you can also add some tapers onto it, so you can have it get larger or smaller as it goes in. You can even have a variable pitch. You can have it tighter wound here at the bottom and then looser here at the end. So you'll have all these options here when you're making your spring. In synchronous mode, a helix is a procedural feature. So that means you'll make your sketch, you'll turn that sketch into your helix, and then that sketch is going to get consumed and is going to disappear. That, just like with everything we've talked about with helix, that relationship is going to be broken. So then to edit the helix, you're going to have to click on it graphically from the Pathfinder and make your edits that way. Now, in ordered, it's going to operate like what we've seen. So this is one that you might want to do in ordered, because especially when we're doing adjustable, because that length is going to be set and fixed, and it's going to be easier for us to grab onto that number and that distance and change it. Your end conditions, so the ends of your spring, you're going to want to probably do in ordered. Even if you make the spring itself um, in synchronous, you'll want to switch over to ordered and do your end conditions in ordered. That way, that if you alter the spring, if it gets adjusted in any way, that end is not going to be changed. That end will still, you know, be what it's supposed to be. All right, and we're gonna stop there on the PowerPoint, and we're gonna actually go through making these parts. So let me start by kind of showing you what it is we want to make. So we're gonna open in our files here. We're actually gonna open this cam launcher, and the way that this cam launcher works is we've got a plunger in here, this little green plunger, and ping pong balls fall down, and we want this thing to move back and forth to shoot the ping pong balls. Well, the way that it works is you'll have a motor right here, and that motor will turn this giant cam, and this cam will cause the plunger to move back, and then when it comes down here to the end, it'll snap back and shoot the ping pong ball forward. Well, for this cam to work, we need springs attached here along the side. And what I want is I want these springs to be of a nature that as I, change this cam, it will update that spring's length and kind of show it stretching. Okay, so we're going to make this spring first. So, well, before I make the spring, let's do this. Let's reset this guy here, and let's see what is the initial distance here. We're gonna need that. So we're gonna go to inspect, and measure distance, and I want to know what is the distance from this guy down here to this guy, and I get a distance. This says true of 151 point and some change. So we might say 152 might be what we go ahead and make our initial spring. So let's keep that in mind, 152. So I'll go up here, I'll start a new, this is going to be a metric part. So we'll start our new metric part. And because this is going to end up being an adjustable part, again, this is going to be a part that I'm going to be able to stretch and change its length. I'm actually going to make this completely in ordered. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to ordered. And we're going to start drawing lines. So I'm going to make a sketch here on this face, and I'm going to make a line. I'm going to make this a symmetric line. So I'll type S to change it to symmetric. And I know this needs to be 152. Okay, so there's my line there. And yours may not be set up like this already. If it's not, let's go ahead and check that. If you go to the IntelliSketch options under Auto Dimension, you want to make sure Auto Dimension is turned on, but only when geometry is created with keyed in values. So maybe double check that. So again, what that means is if I just make a line, it's not going to put a dimension. However, if I type in a dimension while making that line, it will make the dimension as a locked dimension. So we're then going to add here on the ends. I'm going to add 7 millimeters. That just gives me some room for a hook. I'm going to do that on both sides because the spring is going to have some way to attach. And I'm going to turn these into, I don't want the whole thing turned into it. I want to turn these lines into construction. So I just want the ends here to be constructions. 7 millimeters. I'm not sure why it wouldn't let me toggle that whole line or toggle just that section. That's interesting. Okay, and I actually need to change this as well. So I put 152 as the length of my helical section. So this middle line is what the helix is going to be along, and then the hook will be here at the end. Well, the center I'm trying to bridge here is going to be where the hook is. So I think what I actually need to do is I need to change this from being there to being the ends, being 152. Okay, so again, the reason for this is because my hook is going to be what hooks onto that post, and that distance needs to be 152. Okay, so now that we have our dimensions in here, so we want the dimensions in here as well because we're going to be, again, adjusting this length, and I need some variables to grab onto. I don't want it to be able to change willy-nilly. I certainly want these ends to be locked in so that my hook on the end can't get distorted or anything like that when the length changes. Okay, and let's go ahead and add in here a circle for our wire. So I'm going to put that right here at the end, and I know this is going to be 3 millimeter wide wire, and I know that the radius of this turn, the radius of the curving, is going to be 8 millimeters. So I need to add that in there too. So from the center, this wire is going to spiral around at a radius of 8 millimeters, and the width of the wire is going to be 3 millimeters. So I will close the sketch. I'll finish the sketch, and then I'm going to turn this into a helix. So we'll click on our drop down here, we'll select helix, click on a sketch chainer region. So this is what it wants me to helix around, so I'm going to select that guy right there. And then it wants me to select the line to helix around. I want to select the middle line. I don't want these ends selected. And then it wants to know the starting point, so we're going to start on this end. And then we're here to this, the choice here. I'm actually going to choose axis length and turns. So I know that I want it to go all the way down, and I want it to fill up my line here. But how many turns? Let's try 10. Let's see what that looks like. We'll hit next and preview. And you'll see that's probably a few too few turns. So let's go back here and let's change our turns to, I have 15 selected here. 15 is probably still a little bit too few. Let's try, I think 30 might be too much. Let's try 20. 20 actually looks okay. Yeah, let's leave it at 20. Okay, so 20 looks good as far as my turns. It looks like a nice healthy spring. And so now I have my spring in there. So the next thing we want to add is let's add a hook. So we want there to be some kind of hook here on each of the ends. And so to do that, we're going to create a, we need to create a profile here. We're just going to make a sweep, just a simple little sweep here. And so I need a profile for that. And to do that, I'm going to create a sketch. But rather than creating a completely new one, I'm actually going to use what's called feature plane. So feature plane allows me to select the plane of a feature, and I'm going to select this sketch that I've already created here. Now I know I want the center of my hook to be the end of my little addition here. So again, this little addition is what I have allotted myself for my hook. So I'm going to make a circle here, and I know that the circle needs to come out to the middle of that, which should give me a radius of 8, a diameter of 16. So I can just hit enter there. And I need something to sweep about. Now I don't want this to go all the way here yet because I'm going to have it transition. So let's have it go maybe 4 millimeters might be good. So we'll put one there, and we'll put one down here as well. That's just to give, the hook a little bit of, bottom grip here, and then over here, give myself a little bit of room so that I can transition and bend over into that right there. So we can then trim away that. And now I have the path for my swept part. So we'll close the sketch there, finish, and we can actually just go directly into sweep. So because this is in ordered mode, I'm going to get, after this is just a simple sweep, I'm going to get the option to either select a sketch like I've done before, or I will actually be able to just go ahead and draw on when the time comes. So the first thing is select what I want to, the path that I want to follow. So I want to follow that path. And then the cross section. So this is what I was talking about. So if I already have a sketch here, I can select the sketch, or I can just choose to draw the sketch in place when I need it. So I'm going to draw the sketch here on the end, and you'll see it snaps over, and that is very hard to see what's going on. So I'm going to move my camera so I can see a little bit better. And I need to just draw my circle here. So this is again a 3 millimeter circle. And I don't know why it did not make that 3 millimeters. Let's click on that, make that 3 millimeters. There we go. We will agree with that. And then we should be able to hit finish, and it will draw my profile. We'll hit finish there. And I'm going to just go ahead and mirror this to the other side. That way I have the hook on both sides. So we'll click mirror. And we're going to mirror about that plane. Finish. Okay, so now all I need to do is I need to connect my hook to the rest of my spring. So before I can do this, I'm going to I'm going to have to cut this back just a little bit because there's not enough. Not only is there not enough room to bend over to where that meets, I mean, it would just intersect immediately. So what we're going to do is we're going to extrude. We're going to change this to cut. But rather than select from sketch, again, we're going to draw our own on this surface. Okay. And I'm just going to make a box. And we're going to give it dimensions. So whatever you make this so that it cuts it out, we want to make sure and give it dimensions again so that when we do our stretching, this doesn't get um, changed around and get messed up. All right, so now that that's finished, I can now go down. I think 2 millimeters is what we need to go down here. So we'll cut down 2 millimeters in that direction. And I will need to do the same thing to the other side. Now the problem is this is going in the opposite direction, so I can't just mirror it. I'm going to have to actually do it again, but I've already got everything already ready to go. So I'll just go here and draw again. 4, 4, close the sketch, and then we need to go in this direction, 2 millimeters. And now we have our cut. Okay. Now I'm going to hide this sketch here. So after we've got our helix cut back, now we can connect this, and we're going to connect this. There are probably a couple different ways you could do this. We could probably do a loft. I haven't tried doing a loft, but for the sake of showing you something new here, we're going to use surfacing, and we're going to use what's called blue surf. So blue surf allows me to make a surface, an infinitely thin surface between two profiles. So I'm just going to select this profile and go to this profile, and it's going to make a very strange connection. But just like with loft, I can change this from natural to normal, and that will allow me to bend this so that it has a little bit more natural curve in it. All right, so I'll make it look about like that. That looks about right. We'll hit finish, but you'll notice this is purple, and purple tells us that it is a surface and not a solid. So this is still not a part yet, but you will see in a moment that will be a-okay. So we'll do the same thing over here. I want to connect these two lines with a blue surf, and it automatically knew to add not only it as a tangent controlled edge, but it looks like it added in my curve correctly. All right, so we've got that now finished as well. So all that we have to now do, because even though these are surfaces, these are fully enclosed surfaces, I can tell it to recognize that as a body. So I can go over here to my add body, and I can say union. This is going to be my main body, and I'm going to add in this, and I'm going to add in this surface here. So even though they were surfaces, because they don't have any open ends, they can be treated as a solid. They can be brought in as a solid. You might think about it like when you're making a sketch, you can make a 3D solid if you have an enclosed region. Well, you can convert a surface into a solid so long as you have a fully enclosed region, so long as you don't have any open faces. All right, so I'll right click that and those get brought in, and now they're treated as a solid. And that creates our spring. Okay, now you could already, let me go ahead and finish here. We could go back and play with this spring already. We'll dynamically edit this this sketch here. If I were to change this number to, let's say, 160, you'll see my spring gets longer. I make it 200. All right, now we have some issues going on here. We need to look at that. Let's undo that. Okay, but this should allow us to make changes here. Yes, I think the reason this is giving us a problem is because I failed to add a relationship here. So it is trying to keep this here. So let's undo this and let's see let's go back here to this sketch. I'm going to actually just go down here and edit this. And let's do this. Let's add this relationship here. Let's say I want this guy to be horizontal vertically aligned with that. Let's see if that fixes my problem here. Okay, so now when I go back here and dynamically edit, say 200, you see that goes right along with it. There we go. That's what we had to do. So when you go to make an adjustable part, you really got to be conscious of all of your sketches and everything that is, you know, driving your geometry. Because if there's an opportunity for it to, leave something behind, it's going to leave it behind. So we want to make sure that everything is tight and connected through relationships and the like, um, for it to make sure it grabs everything. All right, so let's do this. Let's save this part. So I'm going to hit Save As, and we're just going to save this in the CAM launcher as Spring. We'll hit Save, and we'll then take this spring here in just a minute. Not yet. We're going to do some stuff with the variables, but we're going to then take this over to our assembly. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to make this length adjustable. So I showed where I could just change it here by going back to the sketch. Let's look at the next level of this. If we go to, I believe it's Inspect, no, maybe Tools. Yeah, under the Tools tab, we'll see the Variable table. Now, this may seem really scary and, something y'all don't want to touch or think about because, when you think about variables, you think about your math class and it may give you some level of PTSD. It's a very, very useful tool for us here in Solid Edge. So on the variables table, we have all of the variables for everything that we've done here. Okay, so you can see right here the 152. You see as I hover over it, it highlights in the model over here. But 152, this is our variable for the length of our spring. And I can double click this and change the name. I'm going to say spring underscore length. All right. So it now has a name that I can kind of trace what it's doing with, but you'll see everything in here has a variable. And it's all listed here. So all the different things you can find here, and you can see which ones of them are locked, which ones aren't. We could change them from here. So this is like a one-stop shop. I could from here change this to 200 and it'll automatically update there. Okay. So this is what we have here with the variable table. So I'm going to exit out of this. And the next thing we want to do is we want to have this part kind of labeled, marked as an adjustable part. Okay, so and that's done right here. So under the Tools tab, we'll have something called Adjustable Part, and we'll get a window here that asks us what variable or variables would you like to use as your adjustable part. And we had spring length as our variable. Okay, and we want it to just adjust like a spring. I don't think we necessarily need to worry about this one right now, but we just want it to adjust like a spring, so we'll click OK. And then we're going to hit Save. And now when we come over here to our CAM launcher, I'm going to be able to bring this into the assembly. So if I go to my parts library, I don't want to go to downloads. I want to go to, let's see here, class exercises. All right, so here we're in our folder with our CAM launcher. We're looking for our spring. So here's spring. And I'm just going to drag him in here, and it's going to ask me, how do you want to place this part in here? Do you want it to be an adjustable part, or do you want it to be a rigid part? So I could still take an adjustable part and bring it in as a rigid part, and it won't adjust, it won't change, it'll just be a part like anything else. But I'm going to have it place as an adjustable part. So I'm going to click OK. And the next thing it wants to know is, what variable do you want the part variable to associate with? Well, I currently don't have a variable set that I want to associate with, so I'm going to have to give it one. And the way that I give it one is I can just measure something, and it recognizes that that's what I want the distance to be recorded as. So I'm going to say I want the distance between, hold on, let's reset that there. I want the distance between the middle of this pin to the middle of this pin. Right, that's the variable that I would like. So I'm going to then click OK. And it is now going to adjust this spring based on the length of that part. So if I were to just go ahead and start dragging here, we'll see that that spring length changes. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this spring into place. So I know that this guy needs to go around there. And this guy needs to go around there. And I'm going to switch this thing over here to, let's see here, switch it to tangent. And I'm going to say I would like this cylinder to be tangent to the cylinder of this collet pin there. I don't know why I'm having trouble there with that. There we go. And that should move both of it over. And then I'm going to add this part in again. So library spring, I'll bring it in. Adjustable part. And then I will measure again from the center of this part to the center of that part. Okay. And then we'll use our regular flash fit to get this guy back in, and then we will switch this to tangent. I'll tangent that little cylinder with that cylinder. I'll click OK. And now I have my two springs in there. Of course, that put that on the wrong side of that cylinder. Let's undo that. Let's fix that there. So this cylinder, maybe we'll say with this cylinder here. There we go. And you'll see now when I go to rotate this, my springs will update with it. Of course, it doesn't do it as I'm dragging it. I have to let go of it, but it will update now dynamically with the model. Okay, so that's how you make a spring using a helix and then have it come in and dynamically edit with your model. Now, in the next one, we're going to look at some other ways that you can use springs and have them move and adjust with your models and with your assemblies. But that one's it's gonna be its own thing, so I'm gonna make it its own video. So I guess I'll see you in that one.